Before you spend this penny, stop. Because this coin looks completely ordinary. And that's exactly why people keep spending it, without ever realizing what they just gave away. Today we're talking about the 1963 D Lincoln penny. A coin that most people think is worthless. A coin that exists in huge numbers. A coin that almost nobody checks properly. And yet, a small number of these coins are completely different. Not because of the year. Not because of hype. But because of details that most people never even notice. So if you have a 1963 D penny, or you think you've seen one before, you need to watch this carefully. Because once you understand what to look for, you'll never see this coin the same way again. Now let's start with the truth. Almost every 1963 D penny you find is worth just a few cents. That's it. No hidden thousands. No instant jackpot. Millions of these coins were made at the Denver Mint. They were used every day. They circulated for decades. So from a basic rarity standpoint, this coin is common. But here's the part that changes everything. Even though millions were made, almost none survived in perfect condition. And that's where the real story begins. Because in coin collecting, condition is not just important. It's everything. Let me show you what I mean. Imagine two 1963 D pennies. Same year. Same mint mark. Same design. One of them is dark, worn, scratched. The details are soft. The shine is gone. That coin? It's just a penny. Now look at the second one. Bright surface. Sharp lines. Every detail clear. It almost looks like it just came out of the mint. That coin? That's a completely different category. That's what collectors call high grade. And high grade coins are rare. Not because they weren't made, but because they didn't survive. Think about it. These coins were used in everyday transactions, handled by thousands of people. Dropped, scratched, worn down over time. So finding one that still looks almost perfect is extremely difficult. And that difficulty creates value. Now here's something most people miss completely. Color. If you take a close look at old pennies, you'll notice most of them are brown. That's normal. That happens over time. But every once in a while, you'll find one that still has a red color. Bright. Original. Almost glowing. That's what collectors look for. Because once that original color is gone, it doesn't come back. And coins with full red color are much harder to find. Now combine that with high condition, and suddenly, you're not looking at just a penny anymore. You're looking at something collectors compete for. But we're not done yet. Because there's another layer most people never check. And this is where things get even more interesting. Errors. Small mistakes made during the minting process. Things that were never supposed to happen. Now on a 1963 D penny. You want to slow down and look closely. Check the letters in Liberty. Check. In God we trust. Look at the numbers and the date. Do you see anything unusual? Do the letters look slightly doubled? Do the edges look thicker in some areas? That could be doubling. And if it's real, that's something collectors pay attention to immediately. Now look at the coin as a whole. Is it centered properly? Does anything look off? Because even small errors can make a coin stand out. And when you combine an error with strong condition, that's when things start getting serious. Now here's the part nobody explains clearly. Coins don't have to look dramatic to be valuable. They don't need to be shiny in an obvious way. They don't need to scream, rare. In fact, the coins that matter most often look completely normal. And that's why they get missed. That's why they get spent. That's why they disappear back into circulation. Because people don't stop and look. They assume. They move on. They never check the details. But once you know what to look for, you start seeing things differently. Now let's break this down into something simple you can actually use. If your 1963 penny is dark, worn, with weak details, it's just a common coin. But if it looks sharp, bright, with strong original color, that's your first signal. Then you check for anything unusual. Anything that doesn't look quite right. Because that's where value hides. And most people never go that far. Now think about where these coins come from. Old jars sitting in kitchens for years. Boxes of coins passed down from family members. Collections that haven't been touched in decades. That's where the better coins survive. That's where the overlooked pieces are hiding. And every once in a while, someone takes the time to actually look and realizes they've had something better all along. That's why this matters. Not because every coin is valuable, but because a few of them are. And if you don't check, you'll never know. Now here's something I want you to understand clearly. The difference between a coin that's worth almost nothing and a coin that collectors actually want is usually one small detail, one level of condition, one preserved surface, one overlooked feature. That's it. And that's why this niche is so powerful. Because it's not about luck. It's about attention. It's about knowing what to look for. And actually taking the time to look. So the next time you see a 1963 penny, don't ignore it. Don't assume it's just another coin. Take a second. Turn it under the light. Look at the color. Look at the details. Look at the condition. Because even though most of them are common, the few that stand out are the ones that get noticed. And the only difference between someone who finds them and someone who doesn't is whether they looked closely enough. So before you spend your next penny, take one more look. Because the coin you almost ignore might be the one that turns out to be far more valuable than you ever expected.